Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shamanism, Metaphysics, and Grace. I'm Lauren Hubele here with Ruby the Calico, greeting Jyoti, our favorite astrologer today. Jyoti, welcome.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, so Jyoti, I know that there's quite a bit coming up in a very dense package this weekend, so perhaps we should just jump right into that.
Sure. The first item is the new moon eclipse in Aries at 9 degrees Aries, and it's a new moon eclipse, solar new moon, and it's at 9 degrees Aries, wherever that might fall in people's charts, and it is. It's part of a whole bunch of planets, that have been hanging out in Pisces, Saturn and the North Node and Venus and Neptune, and Neptune's right on the edge almost into Aries, which we'll talk about next. And then you have Mercury and the Sun and the Sun and Moon the same degree. So you have this continued packed stellium, this continued groupings of energy that are not just, the sun and moon, that are all influencing, and yet it is Aries. It is a new moon. It is a new cycle. It is an eclipse. So sometime in the next 3 to 6 months, those energies show up. And so it is about newness, new time, new cycle. This is like the first new moon of the astrological new year, and it's also an eclipse, so it's even more powerful. And Aries is about the individual. How are you going to show up? And it's a new cycle of looking at that. What gets in your way, let go of that. It's setting new ideas and concepts in motion. It's a new cycle of risk taking.
Yeah. So even with the retrogrades
Yeah.
that are going on, we've got this new energy coming in. How do you think, or how do you see Venus and Mercury's retrograde influencing this?
Well, there's times where something's working inside and something's working like
Um,
in an outer
okay.
way, and it kind of keeps the balance so you don't get pulled away from yourself. You've got this other stuff, the Venus Mercury retrograde going on, a certain turning within, as it were. And
Yeah.
so it kind of creates a balance, I find, that you're not being pulled away from yourself by this new energy and this new, okay, let's go, let's get this show on the road. There's still some things that are going, well, let's weigh this out. What do I believe to be true, or what's important for me to take with me into this new cycle? Because I mean, the next day Neptune enters Aries. I mean, it's only by a hair that Neptune isn't already in Aries for this new moon. So it's hard to separate out the two
Sure.
aspects. I
Yeah.
mean, it's all interwoven. This new moon eclipse, not just a new moon, but a new moon eclipse, plus the Neptune entering Aries. So let's step into the Neptune entering Aries for a minute. But they're woven. They're
Sure.
really woven together. So on March 30th at 6 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, Neptune enters Aries. And what I find fascinating is, looking at other people's ideas of what this might look like. When it happened the last time, the day before the Civil War started, that to
Mhm.
me was like, wow, 1861, the day before the Civil War began. And the Civil War was bloody and awful, but supposedly it ended slavery. That was the overview, or the resolution, the outcome. So, what are we stepping into? Not necessarily war or anything. Neptune into Aries. What are we stepping into that maybe we'll be able to see the overview of at some point down the road, or the resolution of, that is new and innovative and taking us beyond where we've been for the past 14 years with Neptune and Pisces.
Well, you chose the Civil War example, so let me keep going with that for a minute because that was a really messy war where it was really unclear whether there were gains. We knew that there was a lot of lives lost, but were there really gains for either side? Yes, there was slavery was abolished by legal terms, but could that have happened without the Civil War, right? We don't know that.
No, but I feel like that was the necessary outcome,
Mm,
and that maybe people going into it didn't think that might happen, but that was what came out of it.
right, right. So we went through this really messy period. I guess that's what I'm wondering is there's this really messy period and then this new way of seeing things or new way
Yes.
forward came out of that. And
And Aries is the individual. And
right,
so it was like the new way of seeing the individual instead of just as a non-denominational slave that could, serve other people. It changed that individuality. So Neptune going into Aries this time, I know it's the spiritual warrior. I don't know how much it will influence physicality and the physical world, but it's really a call to step up as an individual and be seen and be counted and speak and be a moving factor. I mean, sometimes this language is just it kind of deserts me in a way, or it doesn't quite fit. I mean, you think of the spiritual warrior, what does that mean? And it's like, well, sometimes it just means standing up for the person next door because they're being maligned or bullied,
sure. Well, we're
and that's
seeing that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And the rights of the individual. But it's Neptune too. So
right.
we're looking at deep fakes. We're looking at as far as like imaging goes, because Neptune is very much about imaging and the things that go on that are not clear. What is real? What is fake? Fake news? What is real news? What is it's a real evolutionary catalyst here because Neptune is going to be right there at that 0 degrees Aries, the beginning of the zodiac, the beginning of the whole wheel.
Yeah. So
And
if
it'll be here for 14 years.
right, right. And if I understand though from your teachings before, Jyoti, we feel that uh, as it happens most strongly, and then it builds over that period.
Well, it kind of settles in
That was
too. It
okay.
kind of settles in too. But the first beginning hit of it is usually very strong. And I was listening to this person speak over the weekend, and he referenced back to the Dune movies and Frank Herbert's books whenever they were out, 70s, 80s, I don't remember. But his big thing was fear is the mind killer.
Hmm.
And Neptune in Aries is saying, are you willing to be courageous? And courageous doesn't mean you're not afraid. Courageous just means you see the risks, you see your own feelings about it all, and you do it anyway. And so this is really asking us to muster up our courage and stand for things or say things that we normally might not say. We might just kind of step back into the shadows or whatever. And so it's a real invitation for our sense of courage, our sense of wanting to make the world what we would like to live in. in any way, shape, or form.
So listening to you, Jyoti, and I'm hearing this essence of Neptune and this the optics. It's all about optics, right? How things look and how they don't. And so we're going, Neptune's moving into Aries where it's a new beginnings, it's about us. So I would think for myself, oh, maybe there's new ways that I see things, new things I see I never saw before. Can that be some of it as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And new ways of responding to things, new ways of not only perceiving but responding in a new way, in a way that is maybe very different from the way you might have before.
Mm, mm. You know, I have to throw this in because it parallels so nicely. This is in human design. This is gate 17 and the gene key 17. But it's Richard Rudd who speaks of as this period comes to a close, Saturday, the 29th, is it we're opening ourselves to these like St. Paul moments of all of a sudden seeing things with new eyes, right? And that
Yes.
sounds exactly what I'm hearing from you, this new way of seeing what is there.
And seeing what's trying to come in.
Mm,
What's on the cutting edge, being open to, and that's part of the courage, to
yeah.
be open to things that maybe you hadn't counted on or hadn't planned for, and having the courage to stand there in that doorway and see a new vision of possibility, or as Pam Gregory talks about the new earth,
Right.
and how do we want that new earth to look? And what do we need to do for ourselves in order to people that new earth, to be part of that? How do we let go of, we've come out of 14 years of Neptune in Pisces. That was fine. We did what we needed to do there. And now until 2038, we're stepping into this Neptune in Aries. Right after this new moon eclipse. I mean, it's all dovetailed together, and it's kind of like you could almost call it a cosmic thrust, into newness, into cutting edge, into things that maybe we've had glimpses of before, but it also speaks about what is our part in this. This is Aries. This is not anybody else doing it for us. This is
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
This is us being called to the table, and it's saying, and what's your part? What's your deal? What piece are you willing to take to people this next time frame, and create this next time frame? What has your name on it?
Mhm. So, Jyoti, looking at these two aspects together and hearing this, I mean, it sounds like this is part of what we're all talking about of this new consciousness, ushering in this new way of thinking, this and opening ourselves to it, that this might be, like you said, like this thrust. So like I don't know, like a catalyst to get it
Yes,
going.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Like rocket fuel.
Right. And having them both back to back here, I would think we would feel this physically over the weekend.
Well, it's fire. It's a new moon in fire. It's Neptune moving into fiery Aries. And so it's, fire in astrology is more about spirit. It's more about the spirit body. Earth is more the physical body. But it all depends, it's always personal. And if people have copies of their own chart, or they can get them from astro.com, you can download a free chart of your own. and look at where zero Aries is, where it falls in their personal chart, what house it's in mainly. It would give them an idea what the flavor of that energy that's shifting and changing almost so quickly, but we've had fair warning or fair preparation time, and we have changed things over the past several years to prepare, in a sense, to get ready for this, and to see what house, what part of life's business, day-to-day business, is this going to trigger for them or catalyze for them.
So I can't help but ask this. So, because typically under Mercury in retrograde, we're drawn inward. It's not a time that we take action. We're thinking. So along comes this new moon solar eclipse and the Neptune in Aries with this newness and seeing things new. Might this not be the time to actually take action, but it's the time to see it?
Could be that. Could be that. Neptune's going to be moving through Aries until it retrogrades to go back into Pisces. I think that's in October. I think it's October. And so we're getting a taste of something here. Yeah. And we'll be mulling it around with that Mercury in Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde. And it's a time of looking and seeing. It's not until 2026 that Neptune moves into Aries and stays there.
Okay.
Till 2038. And by then, Mercury will have conjuncted Neptune, Venus will have conjuncted Neptune, Saturn will be conjuncting Neptune, which we'll talk about down the road, and I think it's June, could be early July. And we're all going to be kind of integrating, sort of like getting used to Neptune in Aries. So we're not used to it day one. It's kind of like things feel a little different. They feel a little bit speeded up, maybe. Maybe some of us have been feeling it for a couple weeks at least. You know, this speeding up, this kind of getting an idea of, instead of, I don't know where I'm headed, I don't know what choices to make, I don't know what's going on, all of a sudden starting to get a sense of, I know exactly what's being asked of me, or I have a general idea of where I'm going to put my next footfall, you know? And so things will get more clear. And I think that Mercury retrograde, we're still mulling things around, but our attention is being drawn by something. You know, Neptune's moving into Aries. Yes, I'm in a self-reflective state, but this catches my eye. I need to pay attention here.
And it isn't long before Mercury's direct.
Mercury goes direct on April 7th at 5:08 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. It actually catches up on April 26th, but it goes direct on April 7th. And we start articulating, we start moving things a bit forward from what we've been dealing with and looking at and coming to grips with. And then after April 26th, we're in new territory. So it's interesting that these are kind of different energies that are all coming in at the same time. Yeah. You know, that inward pull of Mercury retrograde, this new moon, first new moon, and an eclipse of the new year, and the last of the, if I've got this right, the last of the Aries Libra axis eclipses, excuse me. Now they all are Virgo Pisces for a while, and then they'll change again. But this is the last one of that Aries, you know, forward movement, keep things in balance and in harmony. How do I juggle both? And this Neptune moving into Aries. I mean, that's a lot to juggle in one space of time. It really is.
So maybe it's a good thing Mercury's in retrograde.
Maybe it is because maybe we would leap too quickly.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, maybe we would set things in motion that are that need a little more thought or need a little bit more mulling over in exactly how it's going to look. We might have some good ideas that come out of this Mercury retrograde time frame, and we might even have some ideas of what it would look like, how we could do it, how we could bring it into our day-to-day lives. But yet there, you know, there's that fine tuning that might need to happen in the time it takes for Mercury to go direct, which is like a week later, and then we can attune more to that Neptune and Aries. But people who are sensitive, they're going to feel this right away.
Sure.
This kind of shift, you know, a shift in the field. You know, something's a little bit different. We're not playing by the same rules. We're not going by the same belief systems or thought processes. Things are shifting. They're a little bit different.
Well, they have been, Jyoti.
Yes, yes, they have. Well, Pluto went into Aquarius. What are you going to do?
Yeah,
You know,
right,
Neptune,
right.
Neptune goes into
Yeah,
Aries in June. I think it is. The planet Uranus goes into Gemini. We've moved from the water Earth to the fire air time frame, and it's going to pick up. It's going to speed up. Things are going to be happening faster than we may all be comfortable with. But it's really about spiritual growth. It's really about looking at the larger picture and wanting to see the higher, I use those adjectives lightly, wanting to see the higher possibilities of what can happen. And sometimes you have to shed stuff to make room for that.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's like going to a teacher with a cup full. You have to at least pour half of it out so that you have a receptacle, a way of taking something in and room for it to reside there and not just skim off the top.
Good.
So
Anything?
this new moon eclipse also is saying that there's a Jupiter trine Pallas, which in air, and so this is really opening up a lot of intelligence. This is opening up, and this goes with Neptune in moving into Aries, because Aries is fire of mind. And so there's a lot of opening here for intelligence, conversation, really looking at how the mind and heart work together. I mean that's the dream. And the fact that Mercury is trining Juno, communication and relationships might just feel easier because it's an eclipse, not just a new moon. So over the next 3 to 6 months, there might be easier communication, easier sharing of dreams and visions with people. And the North Node being still in Pisces in the 12th, well, being still in Pisces, is Saturn's getting closer to that. And so it's looking at rigidities and old have tos and doing things because there's a feeling of obligation, you know, and how do we kind of start moving some of that stuff out and be willing to go with the flow, showing up when we need to show up, but not out of obligation or misplaced responsibility. That's also sliding off with that Saturn moving more and more toward Aries. And a lot of opportunity for healing with Mars square Chiron. It's an exact square, well, hardly a degree away. And that Mars in Cancer, still in Cancer, but direct now, squaring Chiron and really pushing the healing element. How can we, what's a word I want? How can we desire to see the bigger picture? and not just be caught in the details or in the moment? How can we hold the intention? That's the better word. How can we hold the intention to see the bigger picture so we don't get lost in all the, oh, well, he said, or she said, or he did, or she did, or, or this is happening, or that's happening. How can we hold the intention to see the larger view of possibility here?
Well,
And because Neptune and Aries, Aries is war. There's just no getting away from it. And yet the ruler of Aries, Mars, in this chart is squaring Chiron and trining Saturn, which gives a lot of perseverance and stick-to-itiveness. There's opportunities to look at who wants war and who doesn't, and how do we begin that process of healing. We used to talk about it in the 70s. Nobody wanted the war in Vietnam. I mean, some people did, that's why it happened, but a lot of people didn't. And so, we're up against something here that says, why does war seem to be a solution to difficulties? Ego personality difficulties. Why is war a solution to that? So how can we hold the intention to see a larger vision of possibility where war isn't even on the table?
Well, that certainly fits with this whole concept of a change in consciousness, right? Because
Yes.
that's really what it would take.
Yes, and I'm not saying by June we're there.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like saying Pluto moving into Aquarius means we're in the golden age of Aquarius. Look around. This is not the golden age of anything, And so it just means that, we're getting a taste of something before the possibility can actually exist. This is like the first monkey, in the 100th monkey syndrome, where by the time the 100th monkey knows something, all the monkeys in the world know it. It's just across the board. So this is the first monkey. So it has to build, it has to be shared, it has to be looked at and perceived differently, and finding our way to create a different world that we really want to live in, or at least create for those coming after us.
yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Anything else there, Jyoti?
No, I'm just really excited. I'm just really excited about this Neptune moving into Aries. I feel like it's got so much potential, especially about calling people out of their complacency, or let somebody else do it. It's kind of like a call to arms, but not those kind of arms.
I
A
like
call
that.
to linking arms
Yeah,
together and doing something as part of a larger collective, but it's about taking personal responsibility for being that spiritual warrior.
that's pretty big.
Yeah. It's huge. And that's why it'll take 14 years for that energy to kind of sink in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wonderful.
that's
Okay,
it for
Jyoti.
me.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks so much for all this wisdom.
You're welcome.